This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Well, good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Tuesday, February 28th, 2023. We're so glad you could join us today. In today's episode of Ag Matters PM, I talk with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Glisan about the latest drought conditions in the state of Iowa. We also have a check of that ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day in the ag marketplace, and for a bit of analysis, we go to Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Jacob, market's not looking great today. What's been going on in the grains?
Well, I mean, there's been a significant pullback here in grain prices. Another strong negative day, down 10 to 12 cents in the front months of the corn market, down 33 cents now in the maize, soybeans. Just continued selling here as we went forward. Just could not catch a break here. The bright spot, if you want to find one, we saw the wheat market. Kind of led the way down. Earlier last week, beginning of last week, and they were only down 2 to 3 cents here. It seems like you probably see some type of commodity spreading going on in there. But inevitably, we took a lot of premium out of this thing. We just technically started, broke a lot of technical support in corn and beans, continued the push down here today and all the way into the close. Soybean meal down $12, down $15 MA. Just an ugly day. Just a risk off technical, long liquidation of the funds. So whatever you want to throw at it, it was just ugly and just had a lot of selling and kept on coming.
And are we looking at really any issues in particular, weather or anything like that, or did the computers just decide it was a down day?
I think, computers, the one thing that we see boiling up is we have no idea really where the positions are of the funds. We've seen, the market, break out here, last week at the end of the week, coming off of some negative fundamental news with the USDA coming out with their forum for next year's crop and for what kind of acres we're going to see. A relatively high, main three commodities, the corn, beans, and wheat, a relatively high level of acres anticipated, being put in. So that was a fundamental news story that just probably triggered some selling. We've seen some very, very tight consolidation in the corn and beans and breaking through some of the technical support, computers stacked on, funds continue to liquidate. We just don't really know where that fund position is right now. You have some bullish news out there. The thing we can't can't forget is that we are in a very tight stocks to use situation, especially with in the old crop. If we plant the acres that we have a good growing season, yes, that can change really, really quick. So, end of the month, you can blame a little bit of this here coming into the end of the month. Do we come in here, immediately, on March 1st and start buying this up? We'll see. But at this point right now, it was just a technical situation that just kept getting fuel added to it.
And then looking a little further, there's reports of Brazil. They're getting quite a bit of rain right now, which is kind of delaying that harvest. And then since they plant right behind that, it's delaying planting season as well. And of course, especially in Brazil, that a lot of their corn comes from that safrinha crop, that second crop. And they're worried about missing kind of that optimal planting period to get all that in. And of course, they're not going to, have like a bad crop at this point, but they're thinking it might be lower than what they were expecting. So could we see some bullishness from that kind of in the future as that situation develops?
I think if that plays out the way that we think it can, yes, that will be bullish. So the funny thing of it is that you just reported it, so we know about it. So that is in the market right now. You look, Michael Cordonier came and lowered his Brazilian corn. Anyway, the Brazilian corn, like you're talking about, the safrinha crop, mostly because of that 20%, I think is what I heard last, is outside the optimal growing season. And, if they get into that drop period with that corn, that could really, severely hurt their yields. And, right now we're lowering 2 million metric tons just because it's not going in the ground as fast. So if that heat comes, if there's any type of problems, yes, this is, we're looking at a lot of preliminary things. We're looking at a lot of anticipated things regarding, what we're going to plant domestically here. Soybean harvest is huge down there, but it's ongoing. It sounds to me like they're starting to catch up in Brazil. They're continuing to Macroneator lowered his soybean and corn in Argentina. So there's still problems out there. Some news that 2 weeks ago probably would have put us to the top end of the range on a higher day. But today, when you see the funds and everything, the strength of the market movement, this positive news, we know that there's problems down there, and it just wasn't enough to stop the bleeding.
All right, and then how are things looking on the livestock side of things as well?
I mean, the feeder cattle are reacting very good to the situation that they're seeing in the corn market. Another contract high, I believe, here today. Yeah, we made another contract high feeder cattle. You look at the live cattle, some recovery from yesterday, saw some little bit of consolidation. February is going off the board today, so you saw a lot of volatility in that. But the cash movement is been pretty strong, been on the higher levels. You look at the hog market. We're looking at a $7 premium over cash right now from that front month, and so you've seen a pretty quiet trade amongst the hogs. Some of the positive news from globally regarding some of the European countries seeing some of these diseases come through their herds. So you may look at some exports being a little bit stronger. Last week we saw beef and pork exports relatively strong. So still good movement at these high levels. Bought beef is pretty high. We're seeing kills slow down. Packers are trying to keep the margins as positive as possible. So, but today you look at about 30-40 cents higher across most of the cattle market. Feeder cattle were up 70 to 80 cents. That's a market that could get pretty crazy here in the next 2 months. But nothing is done yet to distract anything from the bullish story that's there in the cattle market. The one thing I would ensure guys that we do have to continue seeing the strong demand, which is a good question of how that goes. But looking at some of these historical high levels, there's a lot of risk on the table here, and I would encourage guys to strongly take a look at what kind of profit margins you're looking at. Especially when you're looking at buying these high price calves this spring.
All right, lots of great information today, Jacob. For those of our listeners who'd like to get in touch and learn more from the folks at agmarket.net, how can they do that?
I used to take a look at our website, look at the agmarket.net intel, sign up for a 30-day free trial. And if you want to talk to any of us individually, our phone numbers will be on there, and you can find each one of us there on the My Team section.
Great talking with you as always, Jacob, and we look forward to catching up again soon.
Thanks for having me, Riley.
Thanks again to the folks at agmarket.net for the analysis as always. As for right now, let's go ahead and take a look at the closing numbers, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. May corn is down 13 1/4 at 630 1/4. December new crop down 6 1/4 at 569 3/4. May soybeans down 33 3/4 at 1479 even. November new crop down 24 3/4 at 1347 1/4. May soybean meal down 1470 at 467.10. Soybean oil down 30 at 60.04. Chicago wheat down 4 1/2 at 705 1/2. Minneapolis spring wheat down 1 1/4 at 867 1/4. Kansas City hard red wheat down 4 1/4 at 812 3/4. May oats down 8 1/2 at 335 even. On the Merc, April live cattle up 50 at 165.47. May feeders up 90 at 199.62. April lean hogs up 45 at 85.17. April pork cutout unchanged at 91.70. March class 3 milk up 15 at 18.01. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I talk with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Heading into this winter, we were pretty concerned about drought conditions because we just weren't getting enough rain before that soil froze. But since then, we've had a pretty mild winter, all things considered. And at this point, Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan said things are looking pretty good. Well, we're here again this week with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan for an update on the drought conditions and the weather we've been seeing in Iowa. First off, Justin, how's that drought monitor looking for the state?
Yeah, Riley, so good to be with you. The first time in several weeks we've seen very good improvement across the state. That pocket of D3 extreme drought in northwestern Iowa was removed. We still have the D3 and D4 region up there, but we've had a more active storm track just over the last 14 to 30 days. And if you look across the state and much of the upper Midwest, precipitation amounts 300, 400% of normal. So again, we have to remember that we still have a frost level down to anywhere from 5 to 10 inches across the northern 2/3 of the state. Plus our 4-inch soil temperatures, they're in the mid to upper 30s. So we've had some shallow infiltration. We've also had rebounds in stream flows, and that's a function of soil still being frozen, and we get a lot of runoff, especially with the event that we just had last night into this morning on the 27th.
Now, did that storm track get through kind of the areas that are in the most dire need of the moisture? I know Northwest Iowa potentially missed that rain that came through, but they did get that snow. So how are they looking specifically?
Yeah, interesting. You just mentioned northwestern Iowa and the conditions. Been speaking with some field agronomists up that way, and one of them sent me a picture of standing water that looks like a lake in these culverts around fields. So definitely much of the state received precipitation, rainfall, I should say. We've seen totals in the 1 to near 2 inches across several portions of the state. So from southwestern Iowa all the way through to Cedar Rapids, a pretty good swath of those higher totals. We did have some higher rainfall rates with the thunder showers that developed with this low pressure system. So yes, northwestern Iowa did receive snowfall last week, a good amount of snowpack, any moisture on top that's going to help melt it. And again, we've seen pretty remarkable rebounds in stream flows given the runoff.
Right, and then, just those weather totals in general, just kind of thinking of that rain coming down. We've had that little bit of colder temperatures recently that could have caused a little bit more of a freeze. When we got to the rain event, especially last night, how much of that was able to get deep enough into the soil? And we already talked kind of prior to this recording on how much did that previous moisture help to prevent that freeze from getting too deep to where the rain couldn't then get back into the soil?
Right, great question. So we think about late November, early December, prior to the profiles freezing, we had a widespread rainfall event over several days that was able to ingest some of this moisture deeper into the profiles. Why that's important and why we're talking about it now is wetter soils will freeze shallower and won't freeze as fast. So when we do get into warmer temperatures, above freezing temperatures, we start to melt that top layer of soil that's frozen, and you can gently start to infiltrate more water. So definitely this rainfall, we did have some colder temperatures where we did see some freeze at the surface, but we're definitely seeing muddy conditions in the first few inches of the soil, given that we're starting to melt. The rainfall will help start to melt deeper, and as we move into the end of February into March, as we warm temperatures, we'll start to get more infiltration of these standing ponds that we see in many fields across the state.
And then kind of thinking outside of the state as well, we know that especially north of us, they got, over a foot of snow. I mean, really just massive amounts of snow dumped on the ground. When that snow, well, first off, if it's going to stick around with cooler temperatures, but when that snow starts to thaw, could we potentially see issues down here if we see flooding come down from that, elevated water levels? What do we think could happen with that?
Sure, definitely on the Mississippi side. So we're in a unique position here where we have two of the major rivers in North America, the Missouri and the Mississippi, as our eastern and western borders. So all that snowpack melt definitely will move down south through the basin and stream systems. We would like to see the 40-20 rule with the snowpack, 40s during the day, overnight lows in the 20s, so we get a gentle thaw, refreeze cycle, so we're not ingesting all of this melt into the basins at once. Now, the outlooks are trending back towards colder than average temperatures in the start of March. So that's a good signal to see, definitely in terms of snowpack. National Weather Service just issued the first flood briefing last week, and we do see higher probabilities of flooding potential on the Mississippi side, not so much in the Missouri basin right now.
And then, thinking of next month, kind of those weather patterns, what are we expecting to see from that? Because we know that March can either be in like a lamb, out like a lion, or vice versa. What are we thinking from the weather patterns there? Are we going to maybe be a little easier getting into it, rain showers later?
We're definitely seeing a wetter signal through the end of February into March as we start to ramp up climatologically expected precipitation. Of course, we can still see snow in March and April, but we're starting to get in those transition months from the larger scale weather patterns that bring widespread rainfall into those smaller, more discrete events that give us rain totals here and there, especially in the May, June, July timeframe. So it is a transitory month, and we can see active weather. We've seen it in the past. When you do see higher probabilities of wetter conditions in the outlooks, that suggests higher thunderstorm potential. Now, that doesn't suggest that we're going to get severe weather events, but definitely a good signal to see in terms of the drought conditions that we have across the state.
All right, and is there anything else weather-wise or climatologically that we should go over today?
No, we're just, again, looking at that in the climatological outlooks in the modeling, a transition from La Nina to ENSO neutral, so right in between El Nino and La Nina. And when we do see that transition in the March, April, May timeframe, it's meshing up with the shorter term outlooks that we're seeing, 6 to 10, 8 to 14 day, but also monthly, and that we see an elevated signal for wetter conditions across eastern Iowa, eastern 2/3 of the state. Those, again, we look at analog years in which we've seen that transition, and we're currently seeing that in the climate outlooks and the modeling.
And then for those of our listeners and our viewers who would like to get in touch and learn more and just talk about the weather patterns going on in the state, how can they do that?
Yep, 3 ways. Google Iowa Climatology Bureau. It'll bring you to our Iowa Department of Agriculture's Climatology Bureau's website, and it has all kinds of reports, 30, 60, 90-day precipitation and temperature departures, all those interesting weather variables that we use for drought monitoring. My direct office line is 515-281-8981, and my email is justin.glisan@iowaagriculture.gov.
Well, great talking with you again today, Justin, and we look forward to talking with you again next week.
Thanks, Riley. Look forward to it.
That again was Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan. And speaking of the weather, let's go ahead and take a look at that ag weather outlook. Now, the temps may say mid to low 40s or even those lower 50s, but honestly, with the sun out, it feels a lot warmer than that, almost balmy conditions right now as the weather just feels fantastic. The sun continuing to stick out for a little bit, might go back a little bit as there is a chance for some winter weather later this week. But at least for the next couple days, we're going to enjoy some pleasant conditions. Just a great time to be outside if you'd like. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the National Weather Service has in store for the next 24 hours. As you can see from the National Weather Service, we have some pretty great weather ahead of us. Today it'll be mostly cloudy skies with a chance for rain in the north, highs ranging from the low 40s to low 50s. Tonight will be variably cloudy skies with a chance for rain and fog in some areas. Lows overnight ranging from the low to mid 30s. And tomorrow we'll have patchy fog in central Iowa. Otherwise, we'll have clouds decreasing and letting the sun out. Highs ranging from the upper 30s to low 50s. And taking a look at the affiliate weather map for tomorrow, Cherokee will be mostly sunny with a high around 36. Shenandoah decreasing clouds and 51. Des Moines mostly sunny and 51 as well. Waterloo mostly sunny and 47. Albia mostly sunny and a high of 54. And Clinton will be partly cloudy with a high around 53. For more detailed forecasts in your part of the state, make sure to check in with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. That's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook, and that also brings us to the end of this episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can find all of our video content as well as previous episodes of AMPM on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well our free twice daily market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.